Hi guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel, welcome to a new vlog. I'm Lee from Mortgage Free Lee. I talk about money and mum life on the internet. And today we are going to talk about how we overpaid our mortgage by over £22,000 in the last 5 years. This is something I haven't actually spoken about on YouTube before, and I know some of you are interested, so I thought it was time to cover why we're overpaying our mortgage, how we're overpaying our mortgage, and how we've managed to pay off so much. So I've got my coffee, go and grab one and settle in, because I feel like in order to explain how we've managed to overpay by £22,000 in the last 5 years, we need to go back to the start of my budgeting journey. Before we go any further with this video, I just want to make it clear that I completely understand that times are tough out there. Not everyone can afford to overpay their mortgage. We are very fortunate to be a double income household with 2 good salaries. So please don't feel bad if overpaying your mortgage is not within your financial reality right now. It's not for many people. If all you do with your finances at the moment is keep your head above water, you are doing great. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a mortgage expert. I am in no way whatsoever finance trained. I am just a mum who has taught herself how to budget, has chosen this as her personal financial goal, and is going to tell you about her journey. So there is zero advice in this video. So if you're new here, obviously my username is Mortgage Free Lee, and I think sometimes that's probably a little bit confusing because people think that I am mortgage free. I'm not mortgage free. That is my financial goal. It's my main financial goal. And it's been my main financial goal since we started budgeting. And despite the fact that I'm actually a paid content creator in the finance space, I was a late bloomer when it comes to budgeting. I've always been good with my money, I've always been a saver, but it was only when we decided to start a family that I actually learned how to budget. And whilst I was teaching myself how to budget, I was also teaching myself about finance in general and just how to make our money go further. And I basically had an epiphany. Wasn't necessarily the best thing I could be doing with my money. It's probably also important to mention the context. So when I started budgeting, it was sort of 2019, 2020, 2021. Interest rates for savings were low, like really low. And interest rates for mortgages were also really low. I pat myself on the back every single day for the last 5 years because we actually decided to fix for 5 years back in 2020. So we have been on a super low rate all this time. And it's important to bear that in mind because that has helped us to be able to overpay to the extent that we have. But it's also been a driver for why we've overpaid to the extent that we have. Because during those 5 years, mortgage interest rates have gone up. We have known our remortgage was coming. It's actually coming at the end of this year. And we wanted to overpay as much as we could to minimise the impact when our mortgage rate does go up, because it will go up significantly. So essentially, when I realised that perhaps there was more I could be doing with my money than just saving it, I started to look into the FIRE movement. FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, and it's generally more of an Americanised concept. And there are 2 separate things that I considered as possible options aside from just saving my money. One is investing. I have taught myself how to invest. I am now an investor. I invest with my kids. That is a whole separate topic. If you want to hear about investing, let me know what you want to know about and maybe we can talk about that in future. But the other thing was overpaying our mortgage. And honestly, whether or not to be mortgage free is kind of a hotly debated topic within the finance space. People have a lot of opinions about whether or not you should even own your own home in the first place. And then even more opinions on whether or not you should pursue being mortgage free. So as part of my personal education in budgeting and finance, I taught myself about investing and I started to think about overpaying our mortgage. And one of the main reasons that we chose mortgage freedom as our main financial goal is because it was a joint decision. I've said so many times on this channel, we manage our finances as a household. We don't have his and mine. We are married, all our money goes in one pot, we budget from there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and see my Budget With Me series. Hopefully it'll all make sense. But because we budget as a household, we obviously make these huge financial decisions as a household. And whilst I had taught myself about investing and I was interested in that idea, my husband was a lot more comfortable with the idea of overpaying your mortgage, and I completely get that. And I would say that is the main reason we settled on that as our primary financial goal, because we were both on board with it. And that's really important, because if you're going to try and achieve a big financial goal as a couple, you both need to be on board with it. Otherwise you're just working against each other. And it's counterproductive. And back when we actually started overpaying our mortgage, as I said, savings interest rates were rubbish. So there wasn't any huge mathematical dilemma about whether or not to save or overpay our mortgage. Things have changed over the last 5 years. Savings interest rates are higher. Mortgage interest rates are also higher. But my mortgage interest rate has stayed really low until the end of this year. So when people ask me, or challenge me in fact, because I feel like I've been challenged on this a lot, about why we overpay our mortgage, Why don't we save more because savings interest rates are higher? Let's deal with that one first. It is a mathematical fact that if your savings interest rate is higher than your mortgage interest rate, mathematically, the better decision is to put your money in savings. However, it is not that simple. Like anything in finance, it is not that simple. I can categorically tell you that if we had simply saved all that money over these years, we would have not saved £22,000. We would not have £22,000 sitting in a bank account. We would have found something to spend it on. And that's just all about knowing your own self. Everyone is different. We would have found something to spend it on. It's just too easy. So that's one reason why we overpaid the mortgage instead of simply saving it. The other thing I get challenged on is why don't we invest the money because we may see higher returns. Now, as we're all seeing right now, the stock market is up and down, it's crazy. This is not investing advice, your capital is at risk if you invest your money. I actually do invest my money and I don't know why everyone assumes that it's got to be one or the other. We overpay our mortgage, that's our primary financial goal, we put more money towards that, but we do also invest to a lesser extent. And the reason we invest to a lesser extent than we overpay our mortgage is one, I am the most risk averse person you could ever hope to meet. So the fact I invest at all has been a revelation. But one thing you are constantly told when you get into investing, when you're teaching yourself about investing, is understanding your risk appetite. I don't have one. I don't have one. So I choose to invest to a lesser extent than overpaying my mortgage, partly because of my risk appetite. And another huge reason why we choose to overpay our mortgage rather than investing to the same extent or investing all of that money is because my approach to investing in the stock market is a long game. The longer my money is invested, the better. The reason we overpay our mortgage instead is because of our kids. Our children are the reason we budget, they're the reason we invest, they're the reason we do any of the stuff that we do with money right now. And essentially the main driver behind overpaying our mortgage is that tomorrow is not guaranteed, we don't know what's going to happen. And if something were to happen to either me or my husband in the near future when our children are little, we want to know that our family has the financial security of having a paid off house, that won't be a financial burden for the remaining parent. And by overpaying our mortgage, we can make that certainty happen pretty quickly, whereas investing in the stock market is a long-term situation. So essentially, the financial security of our kids is why we're overpaying our mortgage. People ask me, what if we decide to move? Well, if we decide to move, we obviously would need to sell this house, so we would have all of the equity that's in this house, and that would go towards a new house, and then we'd try to overpay that mortgage. So now you know why we're overpaying our mortgage. Let's get into the practicalities of how we're overpaying our mortgage. I think the number one most important thing that has helped us to overpay our mortgage by this amount in the last 5 years is the fact that we made it the goal. We identified that this was our primary financial goal. And if we hadn't done that, I don't think we'd be anywhere near as far along in this journey as we are. We clearly made overpaying our mortgage and being mortgage free our primary financial goal. And when we did that, we incorporated it into our budget like a bill. So we worked out how much we could afford to overpay our mortgage by each month if we paid it like a bill at the start of the month. And historically that payment went out at the start of the month so that we couldn't spend that money on something else, we couldn't fritter it away. And that is how we were able to start off on this journey. Now I will say, when we first started, we didn't actually overpay by as much as we do now. But once we got going, it was very motivating. We were excited by it and we wanted to increase it. So something else I would definitely recommend if you're interested in overpaying your mortgage is to do a mortgage overpayment calculator. We use the Martin Lewis Money Saving Expert one. And essentially you can put in how much mortgage you have, what your interest rate is, how much you want to overpay by, and it will show you how much mortgage interest and how much time you could save off of your mortgage. So how many years sooner you could be mortgage free. It's extremely motivating. I would definitely recommend it if you're looking at starting this journey. And essentially when we did that and realised how much difference it could make if we doubled our original mortgage overpayment, which I think was £200, would make, we doubled it to £400. And that is what we now overpay by monthly. When we started overpaying our mortgage, I was working almost full time, so we used to pay our mortgage overpayment from our salary. However, things have changed since then. I am now part-time at my employed job and part-time as a content creator. So we now pay our mortgage overpayment from my business income. But we still overpay by £400 a month. But there's something we started doing before we actually started overpaying our mortgage that was also helping us to be mortgage free faster. And that is that when we remortgage, and we've done this every time we've remortgaged since we've lived in this house, at remortgage time, instead of going with a lower monthly payment and maintaining the rest of our term, so our mortgage was a 25-year term, when you get to remortgage point, you can continue with the remainder of that term and lower your monthly payments because you've got more equity in your house, providing the loan to value is good. We didn't do that. We said, no, we are going to keep our monthly payments the same that we're currently paying, and we're going to reduce the term. So we shaved off years simply by doing that. Now, I will say there are definitely pros and cons to doing that. The huge downside is that you're obviously contracted into paying that amount of money. So I think that this year we won't be doing that. I think this year we will go with the lower payment, maintain the remainder of our term, and if we're able to afford to, we will overpay extra on top, just because our mortgage interest rate is going up, which is likely to have a bit of a financial impact on us. So to explain our journey into actually overpaying our mortgage, physically overpaying it in the last 5 years, it's definitely been up and down. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. I've got my phone with the figures on. So in 2020, we actually only overpaid by £910, still a good amount of money. We made 4 overpayments of £200, one of £100 and one of £10. I think that first £10 one was just literally to see how we physically did it and to make sure that the payment went through okay. So 2020 was us just sort of dipping our toe in, £910 overpaid on the mortgage. The year after was 2021, and it's always important to take into account the financial landscape. So in that year, savings interest rates were rubbish. We had, as I said, historically been savers, so we had cash savings that with the interest rates at the time and inflation, essentially over time, our cash savings were losing value because inflation was higher than the interest rates. So we decided to reduce our cash savings, and as well as the £400 a month we were putting in, because at this point we doubled our contributions, we also made a lump sum, and in that year we overpaid our mortgage by £10,000. That is an unusual year. I don't think we will ever overpay our mortgage by £10,000 again. So don't think that's normal. In 2022, we overpaid by £300 or £400 a month, and we overpaid £4,501.35p. The £1.35p was to do with an app, which I'm going to tell you about in a little bit, if you were wondering why it was such a random amount. So that was a relatively standard year of overpaying for us. In 2023, I was on maternity leave after having our second baby. And during 2023, I was on statutory maternity pay and unpaid leave. So during those 6 months, we actually paused all our financial goals. We didn't invest, we didn't overpay our mortgage because we couldn't afford it. But before that, we had kept up with it. So we overpaid by £2,500 in that year. January 2024, apart from January where it seems like I forgot to overpay the mortgage, we overpaid by £400 a month for 11 months, so we overpaid by £4,400. And so in those 5 years, we overpaid our mortgage by £22,311.35p. And this year we have carried on with our £400 a month mortgage overpayments. We're about to go under £90,000 remaining to pay on our mortgage, which is very exciting and definitely feels like a milestone. But we also, on the horizon, have the remortgage looming, and I'm not sure how that's going to impact our ability to overpay because we do not know how much our monthly mortgage is going to be. So with that in mind, I just wanted to quickly mention an app that I think could help if you are interested in overpaying your mortgage, but you don't feel like you have the room in your budget to do that. The app is called Sprive. This is not sponsored, but I am an affiliate, so if you use my link and sign up, I will get a small commission, just so that you know. And essentially, Sprive is a smart app that helps you to overpay your mortgage in a few ways. But the feature that could really help you if you are interested in overpaying your mortgage but you don't feel like you've got the budget to overpay right now is the Shop with Sprive feature. You know I talk about cashback all the time over here. I like to get cashback on everything. And Shop with Sprive is a gift card cashback function. So essentially, if you're going to Costa for a coffee, for example, instead of just going to the till and tapping your contactless, you go onto Sprive, you buy a £10 gift card, and you pay for your coffee on that gift card. When you buy the gift card through Sprive, Sprive will give you cash back. It's currently 6% on Costa. So for a £10 voucher, you will get 60p into your Sprive account. And you can do this in so many places. Grocery stores. They have a few retailers that some of the other cashback apps don't have. They've got Primark and Amazon at the moment. And every time you buy a gift card through Sprive using the Shop with Sprive feature, you'll get cash back into your Sprive account, which you can then use to overpay your mortgage. That is what is special about Sprive. Can't withdraw the cash back. You can only use it to overpay your mortgage because that is what the app is designed for. So if overpaying is something you're interested in, essentially you can overpay your mortgage by using cash back on purchases that you're already making. I'll pop my code on the screen and I'll put my link in the description box because Sprive have actually given me a new code. And when you sign up using my link and code, you will get £5 to start you on your mortgage overpayment journey when you buy your first gift card through Shop with Thrive? I know everyone wants to know the answer as to how much mortgage interest have we saved and how many years have we shaved off our mortgage. Honestly, I've got no idea, because the amounts that we've paid over time have changed, your mortgage interest rate changes. But to give you some kind of clue, I've put in our original mortgage amount, how much our mortgage interest rate currently is, and what would happen if we overpaid by £400 a month over the course of our term. And this says we would have paid off our mortgage 10 years earlier and saved £14,840 in interest alone over the course of our term. I'm turning 40 this year. My goal is to be mortgage free in my mid-40s. So if we had paid off our mortgage by the time I'm 45, it would mean we'd had about a 15-year mortgage instead of the 25-year mortgage that we originally started with. Even if it takes a couple more years, we're still talking 7-8 years shaved off our mortgage term. And when I think about not having to pay our mortgage and the overpayment that we pay every month, our mortgage is currently around £800 and we're overpaying by £400 a month, so we would have £1,200 a month. Like, I literally don't know what we're going to do if and when we get to the point of having that much extra money. Like, I can't imagine it. So that is a whistle-stop tour into why we're overpaying our mortgage, how we overpay our mortgage, and how much we've overpaid our mortgage over the last 5 years. And hopefully, if I'm still on YouTube in the next 5 or 10 years, I'll come back and do a video about what it feels like to be mortgage free. And I'll let you know what on earth I do with all that extra money. What would you do? What would you do with the extra money if you didn't have to pay your mortgage? Let me know in the comments. I am intrigued. I'd love to know your thoughts on this video. Is there anything that you want to know? Are you interested in overpaying your mortgage? Are you overpaying your mortgage? Are you mortgage free? Let me know. I want to hear all of it. But whatever you do, do leave me a comment. You have no idea how much dropping a comment on a video like this can help a little channel like mine. I'm Lee from Mortgage Free Lee. I talk about money and mum life on the internet. We do budget with me's, we sort my life out, we go to Aldi quite a lot. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, click the subscribe button and I will see you on the next one.